I have a friend from high school who has a teenage daughter that recently started having fainting spells. I remembered that my nephew had this issue as a child and texted in Messenger to ask my older sister about what they found out about him and if it sounded like my friend's daughter. I asked via text because she is pretty busy. She answered that he still has it and it's a condition he has with anxiety and it overwhelms his heart sometimes. An hour or so later she started talking, again, via text, about how her son and daughter, both young adults now, are mentally handicapped and have psychotic episodes, saying that the daughter totally made up the flea issue they had in their house and her mental issues caused her to break out in hives. This made me confused as I've been with her kids and even took my niece on vacation with us so she could ride the slides with my husband. Not my thing anymore, and she was perfectly fine. Well, an hour later my sister texted me saying all of that was not her. After she had told me about her son's anxiety issue, she had went to work and her husband. Yes, her husband had pretended to be her and even Googled all this BS up. I already had issues with her husband. He has lied and has had other issues before. To say I was angry is an understatement. Her husband, who is not her children's father, was bad-mouthing and telling me her kids are mentally unstable. Carl already has a past of being like this to her kids and my sister went along with it. I told her, that was it. I'm done. I went no contact for the past month, although I kept in touch with the kids. She has a younger son, age 15, and he does not get along with her husband, either. I told the elder too what he had said so they had a heads up. My sister defended him initially but apologized 2 days ago. I told her that her husband needs to apologize for himself, though. He is a grown man. Until then my kids and husband will not be attending anything outside of holidays at my mom's house, their neighbors. My mom can visit or I can visit her, but my kids will have nothing to do with her husband. Even after the apology, he will not be family to me or mine. He is deeply homophobic, drunk every time we visit, and racist. He is the reason my sister is not someone I want to raising my kids if something happened to us. My mom told me I should let it go, because family, but my husband backs me 100%. He claims he thought I knew it was him because they share a FB account. He was looking at other women's accounts and talking to them. So my sister insisted they share an account so he would not do that. Even if it were him not pretending to be my sister, he was spreading lies about two people I care for deeply. My husband and I, both in our early 30s, have been together for over a decade and made the decision to not have kids. I like kids, I have nieces and nephews, we just don't want them for our own reasons. He had a vasectomy which only a few people know about. Our families are aware we don't want kids as they've asked this before during different major life events, our wedding for instance. We recently bought a 3-bedroom home with a nice yard in a nice area. Excited to show our new home to family and friends, major upgrade to our previous home, we hosted a housewarming. During the party, one of my sibling-in-laws, Alex, made a few indirect comments about all this space. And kids would love it in our house, etc. Eventually they asked point blank when we were having kids. I made a light-hearted joke about it, which is my go-to for this question. Oh, well, I like sushi too much to have to give it up for a pregnancy. Plus not drinking for pregnancy and breastfeeding? No thanks. I tried to make it very light-hearted and laugh it off. Most people just laughed along. That seemed to anger Alex and I was told children are a joy, and a good mother puts her kids before everything else. I agreed, children are a joy, I like spending time with the nieces and nephews. And obviously I can't be a good mom if I chose sushi over kids, so I just won't be a mom, paraphrased. Still trying to brush it off in a gentle way because I'm not trying to start a fight by telling them to stop asking in front of everyone, because I know my tone will be seen as rude and abrasive. We move on. But Alex is still annoyed and making little comments in their group about how flippant I am about it and how when it finally happens, then I'll understand. My husband heard this and jokingly said, well, if she gets pregnant, that'll be a problem for the divorce lawyers. That seemed to piss them off more, but they stopped. With holidays coming up, we have not been invited to Alex's usual Halloween bonfire. When husband spoke to his parents, they told him Alex was annoyed we were so careless and callous about our child-free status and to say what we did, and they realized we had taken permanent steps to ensure we never had kids. that we know they had to do if to have kids, etc. And we are AHs to just not care. I feel bad because they did do if and lots of fertility treatments to have their kids. And even then they still had a few miscarriages. I can't imagine wanting kids and struggling to have them and then deal with miscarriages. But at the same time, I'm so tired of justifying living my life how I want. I feel terrible my joke was taken the way it was and that I hurt my IELTS. I truly never meant for that to happen. After the bonfire this weekend, we will be reaching out to have a heart-to-heart, if they'll accept it. Either way, I'll be apologizing for hurting their feelings, let them know I love their kids and them. But I will also be firmly putting down any further attempts to discuss our child-free status, if the conversation is about changing our minds. I have not told them our reasons for being child-free, so I think perhaps if they are willing to listen, I'll explain them and hopefully the conversation can be constructive. I have a cousin, Kat, who got married to Henry early this year. We weren't close as kids, she was pretty spoiled and would always brag about how much designer stuff she has. Be really mean to people under the guise of just trying to help, etc. Don't go out of our way to interact with one another, but I do see her at family events and whatnot and we make small talk. I'm engaged to Chris, who is a software engineer. He's co-head of his department at work with 2 other people, not too long ago. Chris was telling me about how they had some new employees and one of them sounded really familiar. He told me the name and I realized it was Kat's husband. Also, he and Henry hadn't met face to face yet. Kat and Henry had a huge wedding. It was really nice, but all she did for months is brag about how amazing her wedding was. The wedding stuff's died down now, so recently she started going on about how wealthy her husband is and what a great lifestyle they have. One of my other aunts celebrated her 50th about a week ago. I went with Chris and Kat was there with Henry. We were chatting and Kat was saying how Henry has a fantastic new job that pays even more than his previous one. Henry chimed in and said that they were already planning to buy a new house. Kat asked what Chris does. I said he was an engineer like Henry and he has a good job too, but I'll admit I left out where he works on purpose. She smiled and nodded, then said it's fine. She understands that I'm embarrassed and want to keep it quiet. So that was pretty much the end of our conversation then. When we were leaving, she pulled me aside and told me to let her and Henry know if we needed help with the wedding. Obviously I knew what she meant and it was just another dig, but I said, "Bye," and left. Literally 2 days later, I get a DM from Kat and she's furious, well, as much as one can be through text, that I didn't tell them that Chris was one of Henry's bosses. Henry was shocked to see him in the office and Chris made a comment, "Tell Kat OP and me don't need help but thanks for offering." Henry's really embarrassed and so's Kat, and she said that we made them look bad on purpose and if she knew, she'd have never made those comments. It was my duty to tell her and Henry. Chris and I had a really good laugh over this, but she sent a text out to the family group chat we have saying how she was blindsided by me. A few others said that what we did was petty and wrong. I am 17, female, have a child Aaliyah. She is 6 years old with my ex Jacob. He is 33 years old. He has a new girlfriend Regina. She is 27 years old. We just finalized a court order he requested after meeting her and currently have complete 50/50 custody. Regina has always been a little too involved and believes that since she trains parents to parent, she knows everything. Every time I ask Jacob for help with Aaliyah, he comes with suggestions from Regina instead of workshopping things between the two of us. She has been overstepping for years. Jacob and I are pretty much parallel parenting now and do everything separate, including birthdays and even parent-teacher conferences. He brings Regina with him to his meetings. Regina picks Aaliyah up from school every day because I don't get off work in time and he did not want to pay for the after-school program, since he did not need it during his time. So of course he jumps at the opportunity to involve Regina. Well, I currently am trying to find a car because I lost mine, so she ends up bringing Aaliyah to my home instead of our meeting point. When she showed up with my daughter, she was being really quiet and looked sad. When I asked her what was wrong, she wouldn't tell me, so I confronted Regina at her car, who said she took away Aaliyah's tablet and TV time because she refused to do her homework and kept her home from cheerleading practice until it was done, so she missed it. Aaliyah loves cheer and this was just cruel to me. It's something she and Regina connect over and she got her all into this sport just to use it as a tool to control her? To rip away when she feels like it? She's 6 years old and that was not her place. I have told her before she was not allowed to discipline, but she said, if she is going to have Regina in her care she will have to discipline her, and since she does not yell or hit she doesn't understand the problem. I told her she is not a mom and should not be acting like one. She said this is why Aaliyah has behavior issues in my care and left. I called Jacob and demanded that Aaliyah is put in the after-school program and he refused, saying I was being ridiculous, but the parenting plan says no cruel punishments and that only the parents should lead most discipline. If he's doing what she says all the time, how is he leading? Now she is refusing to bring her to my home and I have to Uber to the meeting point, which is costing me loads of money. Is this something I take them back to court about? Edit to add that she keeps her for a couple hours after school until I get off. That's how she had enough time to discipline her. Yes, there is a clause about meeting partners. She's been around a few years, that's not the issue. She's just too involved in parenting and has been for a while. I feel like there are certain boundaries that should be in place and certain things only parents should handle, like discipline and PT conferences, etc. She claims she kept trying to get her to do her work, but she just refused, saying she wanted to play on her tablet instead. She should have called me or her dad when this happened. Cheerleading was Regina's idea. She was a cheerleader and pushed for Aaliyah to join. Aaliyah fell in love with it and now I feel that Regina is using that to control Aaliyah. Do what I say or no cheer. She's 6. If she kept refusing to do her homework she should have called me to discuss a consequence. If she's alone with Aaliyah during either parent's time she needs to discuss with both parents what the course of action should be for discipline. She is not a teacher. She is not a professional we are paying for, therefore guidelines need to be followed.